Hi guys, so welcome back to video 2 in the Mair Mindfulness series. My name's Saffron. Hopefully you've got a bit of a rundown now as to what this is all about, and I'd just like to move on to the first part when we're dealing with energy and vibration. So it's a little bit about law of attraction, and we're going to talk about the helpful strategies that's conducive to raising your vibration, raising your frequency and lifting your mood, and those unhelpful strategies which many people have fallen into in these modern times. So it really comes hand in hand with a lot of the modern day factors, modern triggers, stimulants as well. It all comes together to dictate whether you're going to be resilient or you're not going to be so resilient when it comes to handling everything that's thrown at us on an everyday basis, body, mind and soul. So I wanted to talk about the law of attraction because it's obviously become quite mainstream these days and people are using it as a buzzword all the time. I think it's a great thing with a focus on mindset, empowering people to realise how that can really help increase their wellness. It really has an impact on your health as well as the opportunities in your life and how well you'll be able to move through difficult times. So I like to use the phrase that just because I carry it well doesn't mean it isn't heavy. I like to use that actually because I feel there's definitely a period when you're going through growth, when you're on your journey and you're torn really because you feel that you want to validate everything that you've been through or everything that you're currently going through. You could be going through testing times, you could be in pain, you could be really stretched in multiple directions, and it can be quite insulting to feel that you just put a positive head on and everything can dissipate. Of course, it's not invalidating anything that you're going through, but it's just to keep in mind that if you want to grow more positivity in your life, you want to feed what you want to grow. And if we spend our time focusing on the things that we feel are going wrong, the things that we've been victim to, that can increase that vibration within our life and shut us off to any potential opportunities in which we can actually grow and move forward. So it's all about planting seeds in the right places and remembering that you shouldn't have to explain yourself to anyone. I often got the feeling, or not just the feeling, I had it projected at me that it's okay for you, you don't have any stress, or it's okay for some. A lot of Scottish people like to use that phrase. It's all right for you, I mean, you've got it easy. Or people like to say I'm jammy, which means, I guess to them it looks like everything's okay. I get all the advantages thrown in my direction. And in the past I used to try and explain myself and the reason why I'm determined to focus on betterment rather than going over and over the things that I feel are weighing me down. I think once you get beyond that and you stop trying to explain yourself, you'll reach a better place in your life and you will be able to recognise how you've attracted different situations, different types of people into your life, and those that were problematic, you might not necessarily have got rid of those situations, but it's kind of adjusted to your energy rather than you having to adjust to their energy. So one thing I want to dispel before we really go into the depths of vibration and frequency is how law of attraction is perceived in our culture. We've probably mostly all heard of the book The Secret. It's been doing the rounds, especially in the past decade. But I have to say, it does have an Americanized slant on it, and many of the concepts of the law of attraction are deeply rooted in ancient practices. So it's things that our ancestors knew of thousands of years ago, and they were able to facilitate and understand the power of our frequency and what we emit and what we receive back. So they had these rituals and ceremonies and practices on a daily basis, which helped them to release any emotional states from their body, and they knew the power in doing so because they did believe that emotions are retained within the body if they aren't dealt with, processed and cleared out. So the law of attraction in the modern sense, I guess, has made us focus more on visualization and imagining what we want and encompassing that. And that's kind of got you to look into factors like visualizing the touch or the smell or the sensation of what you're wanting to manifest. But I have to say, a lot of this does slant towards materialism and visualizing an abundance of finances constantly flowing into your account. I wanted to kind of come away from that more because many people get entangled in the meaning after that. We have to trust that the bigger picture has got our back, basically. And a lot of us tend to try and manifest what we think, what we think we need to be happy, rather than trying to aim for contentment and gratitude for what we already have in our life. And that state of contentment and that state of having enough will actually raise more of those feelings of feeling enough and having an abundance and having that gratitude. So you are a magnet, basically. What you give out, you will receive, and you will attract that energy back to you. And you can understand that if you're thinking about the things that would make you happier, that is in some ways acknowledging a lack of it in your life. And it takes you into quite a different zone, more of a striving and needful zone, and a zone of lack, rather than everything has got your back and you're already happy and everything else will be a bonus. So it will steer you towards more opportunities in your life. Things will become much easier in a sense. But please bear in mind that if things seem to be not going to plan, remember that's your idea of a plan and it's not necessarily the bigger perspective. You have to trust that some of the hardships in your life and some of the things that seem to be not going to your plan are actually steering you towards another plan, which in fact knows what your needs are, knows what you are trying to manifest in your life, and will bring that to you in a roundabout way, but you have to trust the process. So it's all about trusting the process. But firstly, I want to talk about all of the ways in which you can raise your vibration. So some of the helpful strategies that you can use to raise your vibration, and that's looking at physical aspects, the physiological state of your body, how your environment is keeping in balance or how it's not keeping in balance, how your body's functioning, because these vessels really are what we've hijacked in order to play this game called life. And that's really all that we are. We're just massive bundles of energy which have formed into shape, matter, bones, tissues. And these are vessels in which we are using to play this game called life. So we're having to look after those vessels as well as our soul and our energy within. So it's always important not just to focus on the mind, hence why this is called Mair than Mindfulness, because it's looking at the entire picture in order for you to fully thrive and flourish to the best of your ability.
So I'm just going to show you a vibrational chart. I'm going to ask you some questions while you ponder this chart. Do you recognise yourself in this? Do you recognise anyone else that you know? And do your experiences lean towards the top end of the scale or more at the bottom end of this frequency scale? I'll leave that with you. So the vibrational emotional scale that pertains to the law of attraction, we're just going to obviously respect the copyright of this. This was taken from the Amazing Outlook coaching online, but I think is a perfect way to show how vibrational states can be recorded. So at the top end of the scale, you can see obviously the hierarchy is unconditional love, integrity, empathy, forgiveness, compassion, radiance, passion and empowerment. But as you head down towards a more neutral state, you'll notice that there's a borderline there. This borderline sits between a state of hope, calm and optimism, and just under that borderline is the feeling or emotion of boredom. And I find that really interesting, that it all starts with boredom, the spiral into the downward vibrational frequencies. And it's good to keep that in mind, because boredom opens you up to being more vulnerable, I guess, to whatever you're exposed to, but also you're more easily influenced. And if you don't have self-discipline, you can find that your mind is seeking somewhere to place its energy, seeking something to stimulate it, and it's not always found in the best of stimulants. As you can see, when we get into feelings of anger, one of the main low frequencies is fear. And fear, as you can see, is quite low down in the chart also. So it's important that we help ourselves be more resilient to any influences which could dictate how much anxiety or fear that we feel within our lives. And remembering that when you are in a state of boredom or you're looking for something to distract you, a form of escapism, you have a restless mind, remember that you're more vulnerable to stimulus and you're more predisposed to falling into the lower vibrational emotions. You're easier to influence with things like news, music, social media, and more, and recognition of this can help raise your awareness of the next steps to take, the awareness of a restless or seeking state, and having useful strategies to help higher your vibration rather than allow lower vibrational energy to dictate how you're feeling. So you're basically deciding to lead your life rather than being led with the stimulus around you. So for those that find this hard to believe or they can't particularly resonate with it, let's change the wording slightly. What is it that characterises a low vibrational person? We're going to look at what lowers the vibrational state versus raising the emotional vibrational state. So that's looking at ways that affect our body functioning and make our body more sluggish with digestive issues or poor energy metabolizing, or a body that's struggling for balance or to thrive due to inflammation, stress, bacteria, viruses, parasites, toxic overload, or regular exposure to stress that's in physical form, physiological form, or mental and emotional form.
So many of us might be thinking, how can we do this? We've got no time to make changes. Our lives are already so overfull and, there's no way that you can fit in anymore. Well, we often think that we don't have the time to organise, we don't have the time to implement changes or the energy. But if you break it down and you evaluate, you can see that quite often many of us find ourselves with time and headspace, and we use that time and headspace to look for other stimulus like scrolling, and before we know it, we've wasted half an hour or an hour on that task which could have been put to something that has more purpose and more conducive to your well-being. So it's stealing back those little minutes, however small a window of opportunity that you have. You can really create so much more for your health, and you can be the driving force. Basically, we have underestimated the power in which we do have and the way in which we can hold ourselves accountable for some areas in our life that need a wee bit of a clear up, need a wee bit of a reboot. So I guess what it's all about is it's resetting your body and your mind, and we're looking at ways to break the cycles and reset. So that's reset in terms of bringing a balance to your body, bringing a balance to the homeostasis. Homeostasis being all of the chemicals and all of the functioning of your body to be exactly the way that they were intended to be and not compromised. So how do we do that? We're going to look at body reset methods, and bearing in mind when I say body reset, I'm also encompassing the mind as well as the physiological and the physical factors that come together for you to have a reset.